Hi, everyone. As our parents and families are just joining us, welcome to Family Friday webinar series. My name is Sherry Obrens, and I'm joined with my colleague, Bridget Guernsey-Reardon, to host this great webinar talking about move-in and orientation. And so as many of you have joined us for the past few weeks, you know that all of our webinars are recorded. And so if you have to tune out or want to tune back in later, they will be posted on our orientation website and in the family portal. We also encourage you to look back at any of our previous webinars if there's something that you missed or just want to refresh, as we are approaching the final 3 weeks before orientation. So we have a great webinar today with some great panelists talking about move-in and orientation. Sherry Brahimi from operations, Dave campus dining and bookstore operations, and Scott Roush from Residence Life. We're also joined by Chad Sunstein from dining and Kathy Marks from Res Life, who are going to be helping us out with the chat. So if you have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A, post those, and we'll either answer your questions live or make sure that we post them as well for all panelists to see. So without further ado, we are going to get started talking about all these great things: sending in your materials, actual move-in, the orientation schedule, staying connected after orientation, and the transition through the first semester. Bridget, anything else you want to add before we get started?
You know, just our typical, Sherry, this will be posted if there's something you miss or something you want to get updated on. And always, as we mentioned, our websites get updated regularly. www.housing.emory.edu is one that I know I send to a lot of you. And then we put things on the family portal. So keep checking the portal, keep checking new student programs, keep telling your students to keep checking their emails, because we email at Emory and we want to keep them updated, and we try to get that information to you too, but it typically goes to your student first. So we're excited to talk to our colleagues today. We've got a lot of good things to cover.
All right, so we're going to get started, and I believe Scott's going to take this, sending materials to your student.
Yeah, so you know, you can always send things to your students, but ultimately one of the things that you can do is send things from your home to arrive on campus before your student gets here, or will be here when your student gets here. And so just wanted to make sure that you understand that all students will have a PO box, and it is located in our few mail room, and that those are assigned by the post office by August 1st, which is Sunday. And if you don't receive that if your student does not receive that, what was called the MSC number or their post office box, please let us know so that we can make sure that we can get that fixed for them and get you all the information you need to send your things to your student, both pre and post arrival on campus. Our university mail contractor is Rico, and they coordinate all of our shipping through their central distribution area and our mail center on campus, which again is located in Few Hall. And then there's a live link to the mail services website, which helps you understand how to ship packages or mail to your student. And then what you want to do as you're shipping stuff is not to have it arrive any earlier than the 5th. We will accept things, but we hope to try to keep things to the 5th and after, just to manage having your materials for that long, but also to control the amount of packages that are coming in. And then there will be pods for each of the mail locations that you'll get a map from us around the move-in time, which will then also indicate where your student's pod will be. And so you won't have to go to the mailroom on move-in day. You can go to this pod, which will be closer in location to your residence hall for you to access your child's package and bring it back to their room. And then again, if you have any questions about mail or things arriving, where pod locations are, MSC stops, any of the questions, just email the email at emory.edu or go to the website, or you can call the phone number that's on the screen.
And actually, we have a question already about kind of sending materials right now. Maybe we could answer it live. what are good items to send early, or what do people typically send early? And that really might depend on how far you're traveling from with your student, if your student's coming alone. But Scott, Dave, or Sherry, anyone want to take that?
Well, I will say I think it varies. I think for me, what I see in terms of shipping is it makes your, if there's anything that you don't want to be weighed down with in your car, or depending on how big your vehicle is, if you're driving or if you're flying, shipping makes all of that really convenient. So you can pretty much ship whatever you want here. But I think as you think about what your transition, what your travel from your home to campuses, and you think about the vehicles and the conveniences that exist for you, whatever you don't want to have in those spaces, or whatever make it easier for you to make those transitions, you can ship, and then it'll be here for you. And we have carts and dollies and things to make it easier for you to transition from the pods back to your rooms. So it really doesn't matter. But we see students ship sheets. We see students ship bedding, clothing, a lot toiletries, a lot of the things, small things that they're going to put on their walls, essentially just like if they were really moving right from your home to their hall. They can ship anything. That's my opinion, but I'll open it up to the other folks too if they would like to share.
I think Sherry and Dave have been great in the chat already, but we use the or PO box interchangeably, but I'm now that your students what you want to put if you're sending things their way.
Hey, Sherry, I want to add something too about something to ship or something to have your student bring with themselves, is that if your student's going to have an on-campus job, they will need unexpired, sorry, that was my dog that dropped something, an unexpired passport, birth certificate, or social security card. So just so you know, what happens is students are looking to get their job started, and if they don't have those documents, that takes a few days to ship. So you should send your student with one of those items so they'll have them to start their jobs. We're going to put that information on the portal, but just wanted you to have that so you'll know it.
All right, so we've now talked about shipping items, but we have a few more details about actual move-in. And we do have two major move-in dates. The first is for our pre-orientation programs, and that will be on Tuesday, August 17th from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Our second move-in day, or the beginning of orientation, is Saturday, August 21st with the same move-in times. And every student on the 21st will get an assigned move-in time or window. So really important that when you get those messages, I think they're coming out in the next week, to pay attention to those assigned times. We don't have assigned times on the 17th because there are fewer students coming in, but really important to stay within your window on those assigned times on the 21st so that we actually can keep people moving through. We have a lot of move-in support on the 21st and the 17th, but on the 21st in particular. And so it's a good idea to really stick to that time. Scott, you've worked many move-ins before. Anything else you want to add about sticking to the times?
Sherry, actually, when you say assigned times, you all get to assign them. So your student has already had the ability to go into THD and pick their time. And I think about 60% of the first year class has already done that. So if you haven't, they're probably getting a gentle reminder today or early next week, but remind your student to go to their myhousing.emory.edu page and pick their move-in time.
And I think, Sherry, to answer your question, I think what helps around the move-in times is, at that move-in time, we are prepared to support your student and get you moved into the space that's reserved for you. And if you do come outside of those times, we'll still be able to support you, but we're also not expecting you, right? And so I think that's the key for making sure that you're following your own move-in time. And that's why we did change it a few years ago for you to select it, so that it makes it much easier for you versus being assigned. And so yeah, and we're gonna have a bunch of people there ready to help and support. And so we can't wait for you to come at your selected time.
Super. A few more questions about the 17th because it is a little bit different. The pods will be available on the 17th is my understanding. So whether or not you're sending things early, if your student's coming on the 17th or the 21st, pods will be available. And I do not believe we have specific move-in times for students to pick on the 17th because it's just a smaller window. So we know that that is open. Great. We know we've been getting a lot of questions from parents and families about the orientation schedule, and we promise we are working on that. Family schedules will be posted on our new student programs website very, very shortly. We've really tried to push a lot of the content for our parents and families over the summer. We know that the things that you want to know and you want to learn about Emory are really important before you arrive. So a lot of the sessions we used to do live in orientation, we've actually now done over the summer. So again, plug for Family Friday webinars. If you want to go back and watch any of those, we really encourage you to do that. We will have a lot of fun activities happening on campus on Saturday the 21st. But we realize that you just want to spend time with your students, getting them settled in their rooms and getting the lay of the land for campus. And so we will have a welcome at the end of the evening when your students have their kickoff. We'll have a welcome program for families. But we do expect that families and students say their goodbyes by Sunday morning because they have a very full, your students have a very full orientation schedule really starting on Sunday. So a little bit more detail. We've talked about the move-in times on Saturday the 21st between 7 and 2. Our wonderful colleagues in dining are putting on a great snack break between 10 and 2. And mentioned we have lots of Explore Campus activities happening throughout the day. So if you have that 7 a.m. move-in time and you are beds are made and you're feeling good by 11, please feel free to explore campus and visit the Carlos Museum or the bookstore, other great things. If you have a later move-in time, we encourage you to do the same things, maybe have your snack break first and explore campus before you actually can pull up to your residence hall. This is a really key point is that your students' official orientation kickoff begins by 5 p.m. So on Saturday, we hope that you'll say your goodbyes and give your hugs to students at that time because they get their official orientation kickoff. And parents, don't worry, we have a program set aside for you too. So it does not have to be the official goodbye. You still have Sunday morning. It's absolutely okay if you want to have breakfast or brunch with your students on Sunday, but by 5 p.m. on Saturday, parents and students will part ways. On Sunday, and Dave or Chad in the chat, breakfast or brunch is on your own, but parents and families are welcome to use our DCT. All of your students have guest passes, and so if they would like to use that with you and swipe you in, it's a great way for you to experience what your students are going to be experiencing. So Dave, anything you want to add to that?
No, just please do take advantage of that. We're proud of the work we do, as you'll hear in a little bit in dining. So please do join us for breakfast on Sunday morning. And again, your student can use 2 of their guest passes or as many guest passes as they would like to bring you into the dining commons.
Great. We'll have a number of religious and spiritual meetings on Sunday morning, if that's important to your family or your students as well. And then we hope that farewells, the big hugs, the last photos are taking place really by noon on Sunday. Your students have a full afternoon of programming starting at 1 p.m. And so they will be occupied having a great time Sunday and into Monday and Tuesday before classes start. So we wanted to share a few other highlights from your students program. Again, these are student only, so families are not expected or really can't attend these. But the first is that your students will have first year faculty connections panels on Monday morning. So all students will get assigned to a faculty member. They get to attend a panel with 3 or 4 faculty members, really just hearing from faculty about expectations and what they've seen successful college students look like and do. It's a nice opportunity for students to get to talk in small groups with faculty and really see that they are people just like us. So that kicks off Monday. There will be a ton of academic department and campus life department, academic department information sessions. We have over 50 of those either on Zoom or in in real life, actually, because some of them are hosting them live throughout the afternoon. And then also many more track advising sessions too. So we know that lots of our students are interested in the pre-health or business or dual degree tracks. And so we will have those advisors. We'll also have academic advising drop-in hours for the afternoon of Monday. So lots of opportunities for your students to connect with the academic side of the house throughout that day. On Tuesday, we have some other great programming about adapting to college. This is when we'll have many campus life open houses. We're also welcoming back our sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So Tuesday, we know that campus was really going to be buzzing with a lot of energy. We're so excited to have people back. But your students are going to have the opportunity to find out where their classes are, kind of take some more campus tours. And we end our orientation with convocation with our new provost, who just joined us July 1st. So we're really excited to hear him speak and welcome the class of 2025. We'll say these are the highlights of orientation, but there's a lot of social programming that happens throughout orientation as well. Scott, you can talk that on the very first night, your students actually have their first residence hall meetings. All of your students will be in orientation leader groups or small groups, and there's just a lot of fun. So we've kind of given you the very 30,000-foot view of what the days look like, but lots of opportunities for them to meet other students, student leaders, staff, faculty, the whole kit and caboodle throughout those 4 days.
Yeah, and Sherry, I want to add something to it too, is that as you can tell, we're so busy and then the evenings are busy. You may not be hearing back from your student quickly from a text that you send them. So we just want you to be warned of that, because they're going to be exchanging their phone numbers with so many people, and they're going to get texts, and they're going to try to make this new social life happen and this new Emory campus life happen. So just be warned that it might be a little unnerving for you that you won't hear back from them as soon, but it's okay. They're just trying to navigate their new world, and we're keeping them very, very busy in a good way. We want them to re-socialize, to make Emory campus their campus, their new home. So we just want you to be patient with them as they try to navigate this.
All right, well, we are gonna turn it over to Dave Berman to talk more about Emory campus dining.
Great. Well, it's great to be here this afternoon, and it's also great to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that's campus dining. For those of you who may not have been on campus yet, that photo that was just on the slide is of our new dining commons, the Dobbs Common Table, in our new student center, and that is the center of gravity, if you will, for our campus dining program. We have 15 different locations on campus and one residential dining unit. And we designed our program that way pretty deliberately because we wanted a single location to bring together our students, our faculty, our staff as one community to foster and build community, which is why we have one residential dining location. Most of our locations are open 7 days a week. Some are open as early as 7:30 in the morning and also as late as 2 a.m. And so there's really very little time during the day where dining is not available. And we did that very deliberately, again, to provide convenience to our students and make sure that they had access to great food as much of the time as possible. So just a quick overview. I'm certainly not going to read all this, and I know that you've all probably seen this for sure. All of our first year students are pretty much automatically enrolled in Meal Plan A. And that is unlimited meal swipes at the Dobbs Common Table, which is our all-you-care-to-eat residential location. And it also includes $150 dually per semester. I think the #1 question we get every year is what are meal swipes and what are dually dollars? And so I'll give you a quick overview of that now. Meal swipes are used primarily in the Dobbs Common Table. Your student will get to the residential dining hall, they'll swipe their card or tap their card, and once they're in, they can avail themselves to as much or as little of whatever's being served at 10 different stations at any time. And because there's unlimited meal swipes, your student can go in and out of the Dobbs Common Table as many times as they would like and on any given day. And we did this again deliberately for first-year students to remove perhaps a barrier for some in worrying about budgeting their number of meals, or even for some other students who may have concerns about affordability and other issues. And by having a single meal plan for all first-year students, and that single plan being unlimited, it removes all of those barriers and all of those concerns. I also need to mention that the Dobbs Common Table does not serve or prepare any foods with peanuts, tree nuts, or shellfish whatsoever. We remove those three most common allergens from all menu items in the Dobbs Common Table to help those with allergies and allergy concerns to be able to enjoy that facility with their classmates, with faculty, and with staff without worrying about the safety of what they're eating. The Dobbs Common Table also offers halal. It offers a completely separate area for items that are made without gluten. And we also offer kosher. And we also have a terrific labeling system that allows our guests to know exactly what potential allergens are in each menu item. Things like lactose, for instance, are always labeled. So students need not have to worry about what's in their meal. Dually dollars are declining balance dollars that can be spent at any campus dining location at all. All of our campus dining locations accept dually dollars. Only the Dobbs Common Table accepts meal swipes for an all-you-care-to-eat meal. Dually dollars can be used anywhere on campus in the other 14 locations, and dually dollars additional dually dollars can be added at any time during the semester if your student runs low. One of the key advantages of dually dollars is because they're part of a student meal plan here in the state of Georgia. That means those purchases are tax exempt, as well as we provide students a 5% discount at the point of sale when using dually dollars. And so it really ends up being close to a 14% discount on every dually dollar purchase. For students who need to follow a kosher diet, we do offer a kosher meal plan for all students, including first-year students. And there's information there on the screen as well on the kosher meal plan. You can see the different meal plan features, and at your leisure, of course, is Dr. Reardon said, this webinar will be online for you to review at a later time. Dually and Eagle dollars, again, dually dollars are declining balance funds for use in purchasing food and only food on campus. Again, 5% discount. I'm sorry, it's 13.9% total discount on every purchase. They can also be used at our food trucks and at the farmers market. We take a great deal of pride in having a weekly farmers market here on campus where we bring farmers and food artisans from the Atlanta area onto campus, and students can use their dually dollars at the farmers market as well. You will probably hear about and see Eagle dollars mentioned. Eagle dollars are a separate program that are not related at all to campus dining, although campus dining locations do accept Eagle dollars as a form of tender. But understand Eagle dollars are taxable and can be used anywhere on campus and at some off-campus locations. So there's no discount on Eagle dollar purchases, and those are not tax exempt. All you care to eat dining, again, meal swipes at the Dobbs Common Table. One swipe equals one entry, and because all first-year students have unlimited swipes, there's really no concerns about how many times your student is entering each day. Again, all first-year students are on Meal Plan A. The Dobbs Common Table is generally open Monday through Thursday from 7:30 in the morning until 10 p.m. with continuous service. Fridays from 7:30 to 8. Saturdays, we open for brunch from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So as you can see, your student will not be hungry and will be well covered. Meal swipes, again, can be used for certain packaged meal items in other locations, and it's called meal exchange, but that is not an all you care to eat situation. It's sort of a combo deal at some other locations. Here we go. Special dietary needs. I think I touched upon this. We have an enormous amount of vegan and vegetarian options. We actually have an entire station in the Dobbs Common Table that is strictly vegetarian. However, we do offer vegetarian and vegan options at every single station, at every single location on campus. And so if your student follows a vegan or a vegetarian diet, there are absolutely no concerns. We also have an avoiding gluten station. I mentioned that as part of our residential dining program. It is within the Dobbs Common Table, but it's a separate sanitized area that is card access only. And so if your student requires a gluten-free diet, they simply need to contact us and we can make sure that they will have access to that area.
Dave, I want to interject about dining here in that we have an amazing variety. And I just want to give an example of a family member who reached out to me. He's a faculty member and just told me how his son was struggling with finding what to eat at the dining hall. And so I took him to the dining hall, and within 10 minutes, he said, my son is just too picky. And so I think it's like any of us, we open up our full refrigerators, but if that's all we're staring at for a month, we just think we have nothing to eat and we want to go out to eat. So just bear with your students when they talk about the food, because I think it's just after the first few weeks, all the novelty wears off. And then, but there is so much to eat on our campus, so many varieties. Dave, you mentioned the meal exchange program. That's really popular in some of the areas. You go over to Whitehall and people are picking up a sandwich or picking up a salad, picking up a drink. There really is tons of variety at Emory. And so just bear with your students because they like to vent to you and you give them unconditional love. But really, really, we do have a wide variety and there's so much to pick from.
Thank you, Bridget.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. Again, we offer a kosher meal plan, and we also offer halal proteins at not only the Dobbs Common Table, but also at Cox Hall, at Rollins Cafe, and Whitehall. And so that has never been an issue. For those students who do follow a halal diet, just as a point of reference too, we offer special meals for Ramadan to ensure that students are able to enjoy breakfast before sunrise and have dinner well after sunset during Ramadan. And we're proud of the accommodations and support that we provide all of our students through our dining program. Student involvement. We truly believe that we are only as good as our last meal, and we actively work to ensure that students become involved in their dining program. We have a food advisory committee at Emory. It's a student-run group. The committee has monthly meetings, and we have all of the folks from campus dining at those meetings where students can provide immediate feedback. And we follow up on that feedback the next day to make sure that we are able to demonstrate that we not only heard the student, but we were able to make that change quickly, if at all possible. And so we do, again, really, really urge our students to become involved in the program.
Dave, thanks so much for all of that great information. We're going to shift gears a little bit, talking more about the fall schedule, but wanted to make sure if there are other Q&As specifically about dining, to make sure you put them in the Q&A box. Both Dave and Chad would be happy to continue to answer those questions. Thanks so much. We wanted to share some important dates. I know we're talking a lot about move-in in the next few weeks and getting your students settled, but there's some other dates that are important for you all to mark your calendars with as well, especially as it relates to the residence halls and dining being open. So our first official holiday after school starts is September 6th for Labor Day. And while we don't have classes, our residence halls are open. All of our dining is open as well. October 11th and 12th is a 2-day fall break on Monday and Tuesday. Again, mid-semester, a great opportunity for your students to kind of recharge their batteries. Some students do choose to go home. Many students choose to stay. This is a great time to do things with their new friends, maybe to finally get off campus and explore Atlanta a little bit. So again, the residence halls are open, dining locations are open, but up to your student if they choose to stay on campus. Bridget's big weekend is Family Weekend and Homecoming, October 22nd through 24th. Make sure you check out the family.emory.edu website for all the details about those programs, but should be a really fun weekend for parents and alums. Definitely, we're excited to have people back on campus. The Thanksgiving holiday for us and students really begins on Wednesday, the 24th. And so this is really important. Students will have classes on Monday and Tuesdays, and sometimes they might even have exams, quizzes, or homework. So please, 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 before you book your Thanksgiving travel or have students come home, make sure that your students have read their syllabi, that they've checked their schedules, and that they're not going to miss any critical work on those 2 days. Many students do leave campus for that holiday or that break, but campus is still open. The residence stalls are open. I know our friends in dining do a really nice Thanksgiving meal for students who stay on as well, and so that is an option. And then students will come back to finish their last week of classes and take their final exams. Our final exam period runs from December 8th through 15th. And this is a really important date to note as well. The residence halls close on December 16th for our winter recess by noon. And so all of your students' exams will be done by the day before on the 15th, and they are expected to leave. Sherry and Scott, do you want to talk a little bit about, I know this comes up a lot, can students leave things in their rooms over the winter recess? What happens if there's, they can't move out exactly at noon on the Thursday? Any of those kind of details as parents are thinking ahead about booking flights?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's we try to keep it as simple as possible for your students, and we just ask that they clean the room. They don't want to come back to, to something gross. So any urging, you can tell your student before they come home to make sure that, that they've cleaned up sort of properly is great. But, some students take this time to sort of change wardrobe, take some stuff home, bring some stuff back. But generally, they're allowed to leave things sort of as they want them in the room. That last day too, soon when your students finalize their class schedule, they'll know when their final exams are. So many students leave before this date. We generally, say, hey, 24 hours after your last final, please leave. This date's just sort of that last, if they had the last final slot, when they can leave before we sort of shut things down for the winter.
We will start communicating with students about 3 weeks ahead of time around checkout processes, what they need to do when they leave, what their room needs to look like, what will happen over the course of the break, what are some important things they should take with them, what are things they can leave behind. We will give them all of that information in multiple ways, whether we'll hand it to them in small handouts, or we'll send them email messages, or it'll be on message boards that they're participating in with their RA or their building folks. So it's not something that you have to remember today in July around what's going to happen in December, but we will continue to remind you, as well as the process that Sherry's talking about in terms of if you have to stay longer or if there's some sort of exigent circumstance, we'll communicate that process to you as well.
So a few things. A few weeks ago, we talked about bookmarking the Emory College calendar. If you Google Emory University's calendar, you will get the registrar's calendar, which has all 9 schools, and the dates are not correct for Emory College students. So really important to bookmark the Emory College calendar, and it will have this final exam schedule and the December 16th date on it. So we really want to highlight that as well. The next thing, if you were with us for advising and registration, you know that your students are going to have an add drop swap period from August 23rd through September 1st. That's a whole week and a half where they're adjusting their schedules, they're adding classes, they're swapping things around, but they will have a syllabus for each of their classes by September 1st at 11:59 p.m. And so if you can hold off with booking kind of any final travel for the holidays or the winter recess until they have that final exam scheduled, that would really be great. You could also ask them about their fall break schedule, kind of if you wanted to book any travel around then, and the Thanksgiving holiday as well. So September 2nd would be a great time to have those conversations with your students, just because they will have their full academic schedules as well.
Hey, Sherry, I'd like to add something to ask Scott to respond to. Scott, can you tell families what the visitor policy is for residence halls? Because many family members went to school when you had to sign in visitors, or you couldn't have anyone after 11 o'clock. So if you can let them know what our visitor policy is.
Yes, I can. It's the visiting policy for us is pretty open. Ultimately, the big thing is that your visitor needs to be accompanied by the student who is their host. And so our residence halls are always locked, and they have prox card readers in the front that are opened by your student's ID card. And so we don't allow people who don't have a prox card access to that building, into the building. And so ultimately, if a brother or a sister or a friend from another institution or you or some other person would like to visit the student needs to be with them to allow them to get in and out of the space. And then if your student is going to have an overnight visitor, they just need to let their roommate know that that's going to happen and work out the agreements on that. And also it's important for them to let their RA know, because that lets the RA know that there's an additional person or persons on the floor that they can be responsible for if necessary. But we don't have front desks, we don't have check-in, check-out sort of situations in our buildings. And so and we do allow, the one thing I will say, it's not necessarily related to the guest policy, but I will say that one of the things that we do also allow is that students who are residential on campus can access any of the lobby and entryway spaces in any of our residence halls. So that if you have a friend or a sibling who lives in a different residential facility, they can meet each other in the lobby areas, but the residential areas are strictly restricted to those folks who live there.
I want to jump in here, Scott. A student, a parent or family member asked about security in the dorms, general, and also during breaks. So Scott addressed sort of the general. During breaks, things are locked down. The one thing that we really try to emphasize with your student, and if you could help us emphasize, is for them to please lock their doors. A lot of students just don't want to carry we still have brass keys. They don't want to carry their key around, so they just leave their door unlocked, and that's never a good idea, right? So please encourage your students to lock their doors. In terms of valuables over the break, so they will have a nightstand in their room that has like a lockable drawer. So I think during the school year, put your valuables there. I personally would take my valuable, expensive watch home with me during the break. I just think that's always a good idea. But of course, it's up to everyone. But during the year, put it in the drawer that locks in your room. During break.
And actually, Bridget had mentioned, bringing either a birth certificate or social security card or passport for working on campus. Really important to bring those documents home over winter break, especially if you or your family are doing any traveling. It would be very hard to get into rooms, I would think, over the break if a student.
Yeah, we don't. Yes. Thank you, Sherry.
We'll say just as one other additional piece on that, if you go to the Residence Life or the Residence Life and Housing website, the Residence Hall Association, which is a student organization that sort of does advocacy and programming for the residence halls, does have a list of vendors who provide some things. And one of our vendors, Collegiate Concepts, who primarily provide micro fridges, and you can rent a micro fridge for the semester or rent a micro fridge for the year. They also do provide safes. And so if you, it's very much like a hotel safe that has, you know, swipe card or PIN code. And so if you do have things and you don't feel like the lockable drawer, or you don't necessarily trust your student or their ability to keep things secured, that is an option. It's not one that is taken very readily by our students, but it is there for them if they'd like to rent a safe for the year.
And Scott, I want to mention to the families, at any college campus, the #1 crime is petty theft. And that's every college campus across the United States. And it's just because somebody gets a little negligent and somebody else gets a little desperate. So it's not that there's campus criminals all over campuses. It's just if someone leaves their laptop open in the library for an hour and goes out visiting with friends, someone might have a crime of opportunity. So it's, again, it's not that there, I was a victim of crime on my own college campus because I left my wallet right there on my bed with the door open. So this is the type of thing that happens, and we try to do our best to avoid it. We try to warn our students. So that's a conversation you can have with your student about safety. Just petty theft is one of those things that's really hard to prevent.
When Bridget brings up a good point, you know, when things happen, it's not because doors were locked and somebody broke in. It's because the door was unlocked, or you left your laptop out in the library and went to go get a coffee. That's when it happens and how it happens.
I wanted to address a question really quickly about the advantages and disadvantages of renting versus buying a microfridge. And here's what I'll say. The renting for a microfridge, you know, the company will bring it, install it, and service the microfridge. And then at the end of the year, they will take it back. And so ultimately you get the benefits of a microfridge without having to have this new thing that now belongs to you that you have to haul to and from the residence halls. And the other addition is that our Residence Hall Association does get a slight commission from the renting of the microfridges, which then gets reinvested back into the residence halls through programming or things like ping pong tables or gaming sets that sort of end up in common spaces in the halls. So those are, I mean, you're very much welcome to buy one if that's, you know, if you want to invest in one and bring one. It's more work for you, whereas we'll do all the heavy lifting literally and figuratively on the back end if you rent one.
And to add to that, Scott, you know, every residence hall has a microwave in the community kitchen, but the micro fridge is the only way to have a microwave in your room. Those are the only microwaves that we approve inside the rooms. So.
Well, parents and families, you are asking wonderful questions. We expect nothing less of you. And so thanks to everyone for really keeping this conversation going. We wanted to make sure that you were aware of a few websites and resources that you can access now and really throughout the next 4 years with your students. So Bridget's going to talk a little bit more about the family portal and the newsletters, and then I'll share some of the other websites that you can start bookmarking now.
Thank you, Sherry. As many of you realize, in May, you were imported to the family portal and you should be receiving a newsletter. Though the email addresses used were the emails that your students put on your admissions records. And so there were a few times that students did not put anyone's email on an admissions record. So in the time being, the Office of Undergraduate Education luckily has gotten information to families through the OPUS accounts. But just so you know, sometimes we don't capture you all, but anyone is eligible to join the portal, family member, grandparent, if they want to see what's happening at Emory. It's 24/7 access to information. Typically we post 4 to 6 items a day. Recently we posted about how to buy books from the bookstore, where to go when you need information about shipping. So it's really a one source stop, like we said, 24/7 for you to get that information. You sign up for how often you want the newsletter, whether it's weekly, twice a month, monthly, it's up to you. And then you can join communities where you can get some focused attention on topics such as athletics, international students. There's all type of communities that you can join. So it's a great resource. We hope you're using it.
And the Office for Undergraduate Education, which is my home, is basically academic affairs for your students when they're in the college. The first website, and we're going to put these in the chat for you as well, is the A to Z resources. These are alphabetized. It has most of our policies and forms if you ever needed a form to fill out. I will say that the forms are student directed. So we talked about this, our very first webinar about FERPA, and really turning the reins over to your students to take control over their own academic careers and actions. And so the A to Z resources, though, is a really good page. Sometimes students might feel overwhelmed or don't know that they have access to these forms. So as a parent or family member, just knowing that this website exists and directing your student back to it is a great way to support them. It's also, easy to follow because it's A to Z. We also have a special page for resources for parents and families. And so it's just an overview of some quick links and other things that we think parents and families might need. I will say that Bridget's Parent and Family Programs website and the parent portal is much more current and really is giving kind of real-time information and updates about the campus. And so we'll direct you there if you want to kind of get a pulse of what's happening on campus. We talked about this a little bit a few weeks ago with transition of care, but sometimes your student really might need an immediate assistance or you're really worried about them. So our student success programs and services also has a concern form, a 24/7 hotline or phone if you really have an emergency. And we have a number of caseworkers who will really triage what's going on and figure out who the best person on campus is to either follow up directly with your student or with you. This again is important to talk to your students about their FERPA releases and what they're giving access to. But you as a parent and family member can always tell us information. You can always share your concerns. You can always let us know what you're thinking. Bridget talks about this often. Sometimes you're going to get the phone call maybe at 3 in the morning and you're up for the rest of the night. Your student feels better. By the next day, they're feeling really, really good. So just know too that the cycle of the college student life, there are going to be ebbs and flows. We know there are going to be stress points, but we have a lot of people on campus who are excited to work with your students and really care for them while they're here. We mentioned this website as well, but all of our information about the schedules and what's coming on for MoveIn will be updated in the next week or so. So college.emory.edu/orientation. You're always welcome to email ec.orientation@emory as well. That's probably a good email to use for the next 2 weeks. Once we get into the semester, really going through the parent family email or more general other kind of direct emails across campus is going to get you to where you need to be. Next week, Bridget and I added one final webinar because we thought this would be a really great way to end our Family Friday series called Talking to Your College Students. And we hope that you tune in live. Bridget has a really great panel lined up to kind of talk about what we've all learned and conversations that you can be having with your students now. But in case you can't join us, we wanted to kind of give you some topics and expectations you might really want to start talking about now. And I think between dining and housing and res life, you've heard some of these nuggets too, but things are going to come up through the year and great to have those conversations with your students now. So how they're going to manage stress, academic expectations. My favorite, laundry. I know I taught my whole first year floor how to do laundry and how to balance checkbooks. So if your students don't know how to do this, maybe it's time for a few lessons now. Sharing a room, that's a big one, especially if your students have never done that. I know we've all been in tight spaces, sharing a lot of space over the last year, but this could be new for others. Scheduling health appointments and managing prescriptions. We talked about that a lot during transition of care. Bank accounts and budgets, using credit cards or paying bills, especially their Emory bills. Remember now, all of the Emory bills go directly to your students. So if they have not yet set up your guest access in Opus, you want to make sure that you have that now. Alcohol and drug use, personal relationships, and personal safety. So those are really big topics. Bridget, you want to talk a little bit more about who's joining us next week?
Yeah, so we have someone from Emory Police, we have somebody from the Counseling Center, we have somebody from Alcohol and Other Drugs Education. We've got, everyone was very eager to be on this, and just made me, it warmed my heart when I said, how about if we do this, and how about we all get together? So we've got a lot of folks who would love to talk with you. So it should be a good conversation. And of course, as always, we'll record it if you can't join us live. But Sherry, another thing I'd like to mention, there's a few different portals out there, and some of you are asking questions about portals, and so we don't want to confuse it. We have a family portal, which is a communication portal, but your students also have a patient portal through Student Health Services. If you are struggling with something with that, please email me at family@emory.edu. I'm happy to try to make a contact for you, but go, if you can, to the Student Health Services webpage, and there is a place that you can ask questions. But that's a different portal, and we just want to make sure that your needs are taken care of with that. And then, of course, we always talk about Opus, online pathway for university students, which is your students' portal to almost everything Emory, paying their bill, checking their grades, putting their emergency contacts. So we've got a lot of entryways at Emory, but we just want to make sure that you know that there's a lot of ways to communicate with us to get any of your questions answered.
And there is a question about the first tuition bill. Those bills have been posted, and messages were sent to your students directly, I believe, just this week. And so September 1 is the deadline for fall tuition, but make sure, please, either log in with your student to their Opus account, and make sure that they have signed up an Opus guest account so that you have access to those billing questions as well. That's really, really important. Some other things, and this is kind of maybe some more fun conversations you can be having with your students as we approach our final 3 weeks before move-in, is what are they excited about? What are they nervous about? My favorite, how often should we check in? Expectations for returning phone calls. Bridget already set those expectations during move-in and orientation. Your students are going to be busy. So please do not panic or worry if you don't hear from them in those first few days. I think no news during the first few days is great news, because that means that they're having a great time. Kind of general reminders about you being there for them, and absolutely okay to ask for help. I think at Emory, we all pride ourselves on being a community of care, and really caring for each other. But asking for help is a great way for us to connect your students to the right people, resources, and opportunities that we have. And then finally, transition does take time. We've all worked with so many student leaders and great students who tell stories that it might have taken a semester or a year, even middle of sophomore year, until they really felt like they had things down, they had their group, they found their people, and then they go abroad, and then they have a whole new group of people. So transition takes time, and so, we have a lot of great programs to support your students through their transition, but knowing that everybody's kind of on their own different timetable, and we expect that as well. So that is our webinar for today. Hope you got lots of good questions answered, again, on the move-in experience, the orientation schedule, dining, housing, res life. And we do hope that you join us next week to have a deeper conversation about kind of the conversations you can be having with your student. Now, our final week of Family Friday, Bridget and I will just be holding open hours and would love to see you actually face-to-face in our Zoom. Anything's on the table, so you can feel free to drop in. And we will all be around move-in weekend starting August 21st. So if you see us in the flesh, please wave, say hi, introduce yourselves. We're really excited to welcome you and your students to campus. So thanks again for joining us. Happy end of July, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye, thank you.